All right. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. It won't be that long, and I promise there'll be some exciting things that I'm going to tell you. I want to introduce Martin Pea. He's actually the main co-host and the guy running our Zoom platform, and he'll be checking the chat feature if you have any questions or comments, and hopefully he'll be also checking Facebook because we're also simultaneously broadcasting on Facebook. So welcome those of you who are on Facebook. And last year we had a bunch of webinars we gave, and we had people attending from not only the United States, but from all over the world. And I usually don't talk about things outside of the United States, but this is a special webinar. We'll be talking about major skyscrapers in the world. Now, I have to admit that I have not personally seen all of these skyscrapers, although I know some people that have seen a bunch of them. And I thank you. There's one person on Facebook, and he mentioned that my talk is about tall tales, and that probably applies because it's about tall buildings. So why do we do this anyway? We started as the Building Expert Series to actually help um, building owners, contractors, attorneys, building managers, condo associations, board members, and all that, just to help give them more information that can be helpful to them. And this webinar is presented by Construction Management Inspection, which is a construction management company that I own and manage. And that's probably the only commercial for that for right now. And let's get right into it. So the title is Major Skyscrapers in the World. We're going to go on a fast tour of different countries in the world. And don't worry, I already got your passport and got your global entry. So there's no TSA, lines and checks and all that. So we're gonna fly around and check out these different places. Okay. So before we do that though, how high in the sky are these tall buildings or skyscrapers? Now, the tallest building in the world is over 2,700 feet high. And how high is that? That's like half a mile high. And half a mile is 1 mile is like super long already. Half a mile is long if it's a tall building. Now, if you stand on the ground and look up, you'll be hard pressed to actually see the top of the building. That's how high it is. And if you think about it, the average height of a unit or a floor is about 10 feet. So that's a lot of feet we're talking about. So, and how are these tall buildings built? Now, there's things to be concerned with. The architect and all these engineers, soil engineers, structural engineers, they have to be concerned about fighting gravity. What kind of materials are going to be used in constructing this monstrosity? Okay, is it a steel structure? Is it going to be of concrete? A lot of these buildings are made of steel and reinforced concrete and a lot of glass, structural glass. Okay, and remember, the higher you go in building, the more you got to be concerned about the gravity. Now, people didn't really consider this, but there's also the elevator situation. If your building is 40 stories high, 80 stories, or 100 stories high, you're going to need to have some kind of device to transport people up and down the building. And that's where elevators and escalators come from, especially elevators. And then because you're so high, there's a wind factor. There's wind loads to consider. The higher the building, the more forceful the winds are. And And believe it or not, when you're up that high, the wind can be really a factor. So onwards and upwards, let's continue on and see where we go with this tour here. So you may ask, where are these buildings built? Besides the United States, and a lot of you attending are from Hawaii. Besides Hawaii, if you travel to the United States and you go to these major cities, there's a lot of tall buildings. Chicago, LA, San Francisco, New York, and so forth. Okay. Atlanta has a whole bunch. But outside of the US, there's a lot of countries that have taller buildings than the buildings in the United States. So we're going to go and take a little tour and find out about these. Now in Dubai, the United Emirates, okay, there's the tallest building in the world, or soon to be the second tallest building, the Burj Khalifa, at 163 floors. Now, in relation to buildings in Hawaii, the tallest building in Hawaii right now is 43 floors. Okay, so if you go and compare 43 floors to 163 floors, there's a huge difference. That's how high this building in Saudi Arabia is, okay, in Dubai. So this is the tallest building, and then there's a couple other ones. But let's go to China. While we're not physically going to China, they still have that COVID problem there. But there's a building called Shanghai Tower, which is 128 floors. And I mean, it's amazing I haven't been there, but it's amazing to see the photos of the finished product. I've seen photos of the building under construction, and it's pretty amazing. 128 floors is super high too, right? So that's the China building, and there's other buildings too. There's a building called Ping An. I don't know if that's next, but yeah, Ping An International Finance Center at 128 floors. So it's almost like Saudi Arabia and these other foreign countries have the edge over the United States in tall buildings. But it may or may not be a contest, who knows? But let me back up. I want to tell you that this high-rise in Dubai, the architect was from the United States. So that's something to get a trivia there. And then where else? Another Saudi Arabia, Abraj Al Bait Clock Tower, and actually it's Bot Clock Tower at 120 floors. And I mean, this is super high too. But let me tell you that some of these buildings, they're not really that high as it seems with the floor area. They may have a pinnacle or a little spire on the top of the building, and they take the height from the top of that little spire. So you could have a bunch of linear feet that is counted towards the height of the building, but it's not usable. Okay, so in a way that's kind of cheating, but it's not, because that's still part of the building. And let's move on. Let's go to South Korea. You have this Lot World Trade Center at 94 floors. I mean, that thing kind of sticks out like a sore thumb because all the other buildings around it are a lot smaller. But imagine, the height. It's still super high, right? And they have, this building is 94 floors, but it's actually really 100 23 floors because the bottom, it's not 10 feet. Usually at the lobby, it's a lot higher. It could be 30 feet, 40 feet, who knows, right? And then Taipei, it's pretty obvious. Taipei 101. How did they get the 101 number from? Well, it's 101 floors. So that's a pretty interesting name. And this building is also sticking out like a sore thumb because all the other buildings around it are a lot smaller, as you can see from the image. Are we at US yet? No, I don't think so. Malaysia, Merdeka, 118 floors. And it's interesting because that this photo is only like part of the top of the building. So yeah, so you can see that these Asia countries are all into, it's almost like a race of see who can build the tallest building. Okay, so I think we're at the US. So United States is not number one. And I don't think the US is ever going to be number one in the tallest building for various reasons. But this is a One World Trade Center, which has 94 floors, and I'll talk more about that later. But I was there 2 times to check it out, and it's pretty awesome. It's a very nice building. In fact, there's another building that's not as nice in the US in New York. And my recent trip to New York, I think last year, I got to see this building, One World Trade Center, and I had lunch. In fact, at the top of the building, there's like a observatory where they have, their little gift shop, and they sell you all these souvenirs. And then there's also a cafeteria, like a food restaurant over there. So, but in New York, there's Central Park Tower, 98 floors. So I got to tell you this story. I was on the ground outside the building looking up, and I got a sore neck because I could barely see the top of the building. I mean, it's huge. This building is more than twice the height of an average building in Hawaii. And this building is not wide. It's like very skinny. From far away, it looks like a toothpick. And it's kind of scary because you wonder, if the building's going to fall down or not. So that's the United States. Now, what's up for the future? So the objective is, like, for these Asian architects and engineers and Saudi Arabia and Dubai, United Arab Emirates, and other countries, Malaysia, China, South Korea, Taipei, Taiwan, Malaysia, they're all like in a race. Their idea is, I want to take you higher, and that's nice. And how high should we go on this? Their engineering feats. It's the more technology available today, the higher they can design and construct the buildings. And if they use maybe different building materials, not like the older building materials, it could be like a Jack and the Beanstalk theory, where it can go as high up as you want it. Okay, but there's factors involved in designing these buildings, super high, that high. And let's see if I have another. I don't really have case studies, but I do have some information to tell you. And like that One World Trade Center, the building has 73 elevators, and it's high-speed elevators. The elevator is so fast, it can travel 23 miles per hour. And 23 miles per hour for elevator is super fast. Now, from the lobby to floor 102, it takes only 60 seconds. And I was in the elevator several times just trying to take a ride and see what goes on. And it doesn't seem like you're actually really traveling that fast. And it doesn't seem like you're even really in an elevator because it's so smooth. And so that's, technology for today. Um, the elevators in Hawaii all don't travel that fast, and they're all not that smooth. If you guys were ever at Kahala Mall or shop at Kahala Mall, there's a parking deck on the side where Long's Drugs is. So there's an elevator in the parking deck. It only goes 2 floors. That elevator is so slow. But because it's only 2 floors, it doesn't need to be that fast, right? And then there's another. Remember, I mentioned that the Dubai building is going to be the second tallest building in the world. There's a building in Saudi Arabia, and it was called the Kingdom Tower. It changed their name to the Jeddah Tower, and the construction stopped. But when it's completed, it's going to be 3,281 feet high, and the top floor is 2,200 feet, which is basically the height of the building in Dubai, right? So the reason why the construction stopped is they had a labor conflict with workers and all that. So I'm not sure whether they started up again or not, but we'll see. Now, the question is, in the United States, are they going to be building tall buildings? Well, they're currently in the United States. There's currently plans, and the buildings could be under construction now. I'm not sure, but in cities like New York, Miami, Chicago, Austin, and Atlanta, there's plans to build taller buildings, and we'll see. But the taller buildings that they're building is not going to surpass the height of these buildings in Dubai and Asia. Okay, so I don't think it's really a race per se, but the reason why they don't have these super tall buildings, let's say in LA, that because they have to be aware, and they are aware of the wind load and earthquake factor and all those things. So that's why like the tallest building in LA is that certain height, and it can't go any higher really because of those factors that I mentioned. So I can talk about that some more if you guys are interested. But basically, that's a fast tour of the major skyscrapers in the world. And so the conclusion, I'll probably conclude after the Q&A, because there may be questions that pertain to what I'm going to say at the end. So and now what you missed in previous webinars, we have done a whole bunch for 2 years now. This is our 3rd year, and we've given at least 12 to 15. Well, I take that back. Each month we're giving 2, so in a given year, that's probably 20, 22, let's say 22 to 24 webinars a year, plus or minus, because sometimes we do these pop-ups where an issue comes up and it's not scheduled, and we just go talk about whatever the top of mind subject matter is. So we've done webinars on roofing, concrete spalling, windows, painting, waterproofing, termites, hurricane ties, flooding, a whole bunch. So they're available. All the webinars are available on demand at our website, askbuildingexpert.now.site. Choose what you want, sit down, and hopefully you can learn from the information. Now, what's coming up in the future, okay, and I'll go down the list here, if you don't mind. We have this month, how long does it last? And that's not a subject about Viagra or anything like that. It's actually building components. People want to know, how long is my building going to last? How long is the roof going to last? How long is this, generator going to last? Water heater, all these kind of things. And I might get Martin to talk about how long his Maytag washer lasted. I think it's like 40 years or something. But anyway, I'll get him to talk about that. Next, we have fire code inspections, ancient buildings in Italy. And that's another one. We're going outside the US. And why ancient buildings in Italy? I just came back from Italy. I was on a cruise to different cities in Italy, Venice, Naples, Rome, so forth. So I'm interested in old buildings. And so I took a bunch of photos, and I decided I'm going to do a presentation on ancient buildings and talk about the Colosseum, talk about St. Peter's Square, Sistine Chapel, and I really like Pompeii. That was pretty awesome. So I'll be showing you photos that I took of these areas. So hopefully you can attend that. Next one is, why is my electric bill so high? That one was requested, actually. Another request is DPP. Why is my building permit taking so long? And that's another webinar we're doing that was by request. Then we have emergency generators, climate change and global warming, real or fake news, condo board errors. If you guys are associated with condominiums, I have another webinar after that, condo lawsuits. There's trouble in paradise. That's going to be interesting. Then the 7 stages of construction, 14 types of building structure components, Aloha Stadium from rust to dust, the real estate development process, water damage, flood remediation, construction defect litigation cases. I'll be talking about actual cases that I worked on with respect to construction defect litigation, talk about bad construction work and all that. Next is renovation is no vacation. That's talking about like when you're renovating your house or your condo, what to look for, pitfalls and that kind of thing. This is a one-off one. It's nothing to do with building and construction, but real estate. And the topic is real estate seller disclosure. And that's always been kind of a hot spot for me. Next is International Residential Code. We're talking about the building code. After that is cliff dwelling construction. If you ever want to live on a cliff or are interested in how these people are living on the cliff, attend that. And then I got 2 other ones which are, been in the news, the rail, the big, bad, and the ugly. And then Red Hill, the big Navy blunder. And then why hire a construction manager? And then that takes us to December, and we're having a holiday party. I'm not sure if you can register yet for that, but that's what's coming up. Now, before we get to the Q&A, let me see. I think visit our website, askbuildingexpert.now.site. That's the site that we got. I mean, it was small when we first started, and now the website is huge. We have all our on-demand webinars that we've given from day one. The webinars are all that. You don't need a Netflix account or anything to watch it. watch any of them. We got handouts, we got copy of PowerPoint, we have some publications, we have books, a lot of stuff. It's kind of difficult to maintain a huge site like that, but we do it for you guys, so you guys can benefit from all the information. Now, let's talk about the question and answers. You got questions, I got answers. If you need to get a hold of me, my number here is 808-422-2132. That's a landline, so don't text to that line. I'll never get it. Email lanceluke@hawaiibuildingexpert.com. Feel free to email if you have any questions pertaining to this webinar or past webinars, or questions pertaining to building and construction. I'm open. I'm willing to talk about things and answer your questions. But right now, pertaining to this specific webinar, I'm going to open it up for questions. So I'd like to bring Martin back, if he's still around, if he didn't run away yet. Martin, are you around?
He didn't run away, Lance. He's over here trying to check on all the questions. So we do have, and let me ask you one that we got on the Facebook side, and it asks, how much consideration is given to structural weight at higher floors? That is, to avoid being top heavy or slender buildings.
Okay.
Good question.
The design involves a lot of different people, from your soil engineer, geotechnical engineer, which is the same. They're concerned about the soil, the foundation. What's going to be, you take a piece of vacant land, well, what is that land made up of? If we start digging 10 feet, 20 feet, 50 feet, 100 feet down, what are we going to find? So there's soil testing done to determine the type of soil that's there. What kind of rock is there? Are there any caverns or holes there? Is there like areas where it could sink? And in Hawaii, you may have lava tubes where it's hollow, or you got abandoned streams, underground streams. So those are the things to be careful of. In San Francisco, there's a building that's sinking and leaning, called the Millennium Tower. I was there just last month checking it out, and they're trying to fix the building. And what happened is the soil condition is sandy, because basically you're building on a swamp. Okay, so all these things need to be taken into consideration. The taller the building, the more consideration is given towards the type of soil and foundation that the building foundation is going to be built on. So in answer to the question, yes, that has a lot to take into consideration. The other thing is the structure engineer would design the foundation, and there could be piles, driven down 250 feet, below the level of the lot, right? So it all depends what type of conditions that are there. So definitely the weight has a factor, foundation, soil issues to be take into consideration. And of course, the higher the building, the more weight, the heavier the building is going to be. So the foundation is critical. That's why you see these massive buildings like the one in LA. It takes up the entire block. The foundation is basically the entire block, and then the building is built upon the big foundation. So a lot of times when you see the building being built, that's not really the size of the foundation. The footprint of the tower is not the footprint of the foundation. The footprint of the foundation is way bigger than what you see. Okay, and a lot of times it's all underground, and you won't be able to see it. All you see is the top of the building, maybe the parking deck, going up. You don't see what's underneath, yeah, what's in the ground. So I like that. Um, so what other questions do we have?
Okay, Lance, well, we have a couple from our Q and A side on Zoom here. The first one is, what is the tallest building in Hawaii? I thought it was my first Hawaiian new tower, but I may be wrong.
Okay, so Martin actually worked at First Hawaiian Bank before he retired, right? And he did good. His 401k, and he saved so much money. Now he has it in his savings and all that, and investments in First and Second Hawaiian Bank. So he got to take me to lunch one day or something. But okay, so First Hawaiian Bank, that new building downtown, and I like the design. It was built in 1996, and it has 30 floors, and it's 429 feet. Now, for years, that was the tallest building in Hawaii, okay, at 429 feet. But it recently got surpassed about a year or two ago by a building called the Central Ala Moana, which has 435 floors, which is basically um, a bunch of floors more than the First Hawaiian Bank building. But the Central was built in 2021. It has 43 floors. Okay, 43 floors. And the First Hawaiian Bank has 30 floors. Well, why? Well, First Hawaiian Bank is a bank. It's not residential. People don't live there, they work there. So you go into the bank and you have these huge, massive lot. It's a massive lobby, and it's super high. And then I actually went to a party up on one of the top floors, and it's super nice with a nice view. So there's no reason for numerous floors in a bank building, such as you're designing residential. When you're designing a residential condo, you want to use every single square foot, because to a developer, that's what you have to sell. The more floors you have to sell, the better. You make more money because they're all condo units. Okay, so First Hawaiian Bank is the second highest, tallest building in Hawaii. And there you go. So what other comments or questions we got?
My comment is, I'm sorry our building became second after all these years, but thanks for that update.
Okay.
Yeah, we have another question here as, how would they fix that Millennium Tower since they are already really far along with the project?
Well, the building was completed already, right? Years ago. And then it was determined that the building was leaning and sinking. So they came up with different options. And one of the options is to drive these long piles, because let me back up. When the building was first designed and built, they did not connect the foundation to bedrock. They figured that they didn't need to. And so the foundation footings only went down 50, 60 feet. But in hindsight, it wasn't connected to bedrock. And then the building started shifting. And now the structural engineers came up with the plan to now drive these piles down and connect it to bedrock, which is like about 250 feet down below, the surface. And on one side of the building to kind of stabilize it so it doesn't, keep leaning and all that. So that's the fix, and they're still working on it now. And they've been running into problems because they found like this abandoned wall down below or something. So anyway, I'm still monitoring that, and I'll be able to give you another report when the fix is completed, and we'll see, if that works. I may even fly to San Francisco to take a look at it, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, we still got a few more questions that have come in, yeah, Vance.
Good, good.
Let me give you the first one here that I've seen is US going to compete and build taller buildings comparable to the ones in those foreign countries? What do you think?
What was the question again?
Is the US going to compete and build taller buildings comparable to the ones in those foreign countries, which is mostly Asia, yeah?
The answer is no. I don't think that that we should. I don't think it's a game. I mean, at one time, everybody said we want to be the first. We want to be the one to have the tallest high rise in the world, and it was kind of a race. And I think that's still going on in Asia, but in the United States, no. I don't think we're capable of, and I don't think we should build buildings that tall. To me, it gets a bit ridiculous. And the reason to build tall buildings is for space, right? If you're in a large city and there's not enough land and not enough housing, then you want to go vertical. That's the whole idea. But in these cities where they're building these tall buildings, they still have space, right? So there's like no reason to build that high, but they're doing it anyway. So in answer to the question, I don't think the United States is wants to compete. I don't think they can compete, and there's various factors why they shouldn't compete. Such as I mentioned before, you got to worry about um, the load factor, wind, earthquake, and all that kind of thing.
Okay, thanks, Lance. Next question is, what are some of the problems with designing buildings that are over 1,000 feet?
1,000 feet high is over twice, more than twice the height of a average building in Hawaii. And I know most of you guys are from Hawaii that are on, and like that first Hawaiian Bank Tower downtown, it was 430 feet. So 1,000 feet building is like really high. It's more than double the tallest building in Hawaii today. And so, like I mentioned before, there's various factors involved, such as the weight, foundation, soil issues, wind loads. The higher you get, there's a wind load factor. There's earthquake loads too. And believe it or not, Hawaii is not exempt from earthquakes like LA. LA has earthquakes, San Fran has earthquakes, Hawaii has earthquakes too. Just the same as Hawaii has volcanoes, and volcanoes are part of the reason for the earthquakes, right? So there's also vertical transportation system problems or to be aware of with your elevators and escalators, and mostly with elevators. And people don't think about this. The higher the building, there's a fire and life safety factor. Okay, so let's take a 43 floor condo building in Hawaii, 43 floors. If there was ever a fire, you got thousands of people living in the building. How are they going to get out of the building? Okay, they cannot use the elevators. They have to use the stairways. Okay, so if the building is 43 floors high, that's already a problem. Now, can you imagine the building being 100 floors? And now you got more people, and now you got a problem where people need to escape. So that's a big consideration. Your fire alarm system, your fire sprinkler system, your smoke detectors and all that. All these things have something to be concerned about with the life safety factor. So that's also a major player in designing, these high, tall buildings. So what else we got?
Well, this is kind of along the lines of what you just talked about, but more to Hawaii. If you predict taller just wondering if you predict taller buildings being built in Hawaii, past that 400 limit that we seem to have. You think that's pretty much maxed out?
No, I don't think so. There's been talk for several years now about going higher than 400 feet, going higher than 600 feet. In Kaka'ako area where there's more land to be developed, these developers want to build even higher than 400 feet
Hmm.
and probably 600. But in the future, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a building that was 800 feet or higher, right? Now, in certain areas, right? But you got to be concerned about those factors that I mentioned, but also, um, the view planes and all that. So if you got too many condo buildings that are too tall in a smaller area, like bunched up in Kaka'ako, eventually you're gonna, for the people living in a condo, they want to look out at their view, but then it's like, well, what view? Because you got all these buildings that are too close to each other and too high. So it may be a problem where instead of looking at the ocean or looking at Magic Island or Ala Moana, park, or looking over the harbor, you're just looking into another building. Okay, so that's something to be concerned with. Now, I was talking about LA. So I was at one time I was in LA and I went to inspect that. It's called the Wilshire Grand Center. That's over 1,000 feet. I wasn't there when it was completed. I just inspected it when it was under construction. It was 73 floors, and it took like a whole city block. And a city block is not like a block in Honolulu. A city block is way bigger. And I mean, that project was massive. They had several tower cranes and all that. The reason I'm bringing that up is I don't think that in LA they're going to go too much higher because of the wind factor and the earthquake factor. In fact, somebody told me that that tall building in Dubai, when you're on the top floor, the building sways plus or minus like 10 feet, but you don't really notice it that much. So that would be interesting. So what else we got?
Well, I just got one more question here, which maybe is appropriate to Hawaii. You see a trend towards the design and construction of green buildings.
Okay, so for you people out there that are tuned in, a green building is not a building that's painted green, although it could be. It's basically a building that takes into consideration the environment, more than a building that's not green. And you could have a green building that has a rooftop, and you could have trees growing on it. You could have a park there and all that, and that's green. But that's part of the equation. A green building is a building that is environmentally conscious, with their air conditioning, ventilation, with their energy. They're trying to do a lot to save energy and save the environment. That's why when you hear the term LEED, we got LEED platinum designation, or LEED this, LEED that. It's LEED, that stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. Okay, that's what LEED stands for. And if a building gets a LEED award, then that's good. That means their plans and construction conform to certain standards to allow them to qualify to get that award. and certification. So that's a good thing, to be, cognizant of the environment and to build a building that um, is concerned about the environment and not that wasteful. So kudos to the architects and engineers that are designing these LEED type buildings. And I think by today's standard, all these architects and engineers are trying to design buildings to really be aware and take care of the environment and save energy. It doesn't make sense to design a building, brand new, where they're not concerned and they have air conditioners and all that that are just eating up a lot of electricity. So the objective is to make sure that the electric bill is as low as possible by using a lot of new products that are available to save energy and keep up with the ever-changing times. It's always in the world of the building industry and in construction, there's always new methods and new products and all that. So 10 years ago, you had the latest and greatest air conditioner. Today, that air conditioner is basically outdated already, and there's new things on the market. So we got any other comments or questions?
No, Lance, that's all I see on Facebook, on Zoom, and that have come in, through email or whatever earlier, yeah.
Okay, well, once again, thank you everybody for attending. Hope you guys learned something and took a short trip around the world. By the way, if we had to fly to these countries, it wouldn't be, in 30 minutes. It would be a long time unless there's new planes that are invented where we can fly from here to Japan in an hour. I mean, wouldn't that be great? So I'm kind of looking forward to that for my travel. The thing, I like to travel. I like to be in different places. The problem is I don't like the process of getting there, airport security, sitting at the airport for hours, then sitting on a plane for hours, flying from Hawaii to New York is kind of a long flight. And then from New York to, where did I go last? From New York to Paris or I think Venice. I mean, that's another leg of a long flight. So it's just part of the whole travel thing, right? If you want to experience different places, that's what you got to put up with. But hopefully you guys learned something, and please join us on future webinars. Pick a title or topic that you're interested in and join us. If you don't want to log into our Zoom platform, you can easily just watch this webinar on Facebook. And we're actually working on another platform that we're going to use in the future that will be multiple streams to different platforms, including YouTube and some other ones. So we're getting that in the works, and we'll be able to be affording that in the future. So if you don't want to use Facebook, if you want to watch on YouTube or LinkedIn or whatever, that's going to be available too. Martin is working diligently to get that up and running. So maybe in the next webinar we'll have that available. But we're not in a rush, because if you guys really want to tune in, we have our Zoom and we have Facebook for now. Okay, so we're going to be signing off, and thank you for attending, and we'll hope to see you next time. Aloha.